Welcome back as we dive on into this best of 3 TvZ between the red Zerg top left-hand side RagnaroK and the blue Terran bottom right-hand side INnoVation from TvZ Gaming. You set up here on Death Aura for map 1 of the series. Let's get this ready to go. So first game of a best of 3. Get this underway. And yeah, just excited to see how this group's going to close on out. Again, at the end of today, we'll have 9 of 12 players in the brackets. And so far, we've got 1 Protoss. And guaranteed, what, I guess, 5 Terrans and 3 Zergs? Group D only has 3 Protoss in, so at least one of them will qualify. Then they also have Bjorn and Solo, who are very strong. So, I mean, honestly, it's been a Terran-dominated event so far. INnoVation could make a play for top of this group if he wins this series. So, as it stands, RagnaroK 2-1, Soul 2-1. If INnoVation wins this, it would come down to kind of an INnoVation Soul matchup to actually fight for top of the group. So, pretty wild. If RagnaroK wins this, then he's actually also in that competition as well. And then it comes down to some map scores, which I don't have figured out just yet, but we'll figure it out after this series. We'll let you guys know what the outcomes could be going into the final matchup. Again, 2 best of 3s remain today, with INnoVation RagnaroK being the first, and then INnoVation Soul coming up after, as we continue through group stages of WardiTV 2021. When will the playoffs start? The playoffs will start on Friday next week, so a week tomorrow, February 5th, 6th, and 7th. So on the 5th, we have the round of 12. On the 6th, we have the round of 8. And on the 7th, we have the semifinals and the finals. So, yes, that's next week for the playoffs of the tournament. Again, it was meant to be this weekend, but we had to move stuff around due to the GSL Super Tournament being announced out of nowhere. Fever pulls back, Ling speed coming through. It's going to see our third hatchery from RagnaroK off over on the right-hand side. There's the Overlord of RagnaroK moving up the left. Another one out down the bottom. All of our drones continuing through as our Ling speed coming along about halfway through at the moment. And again, just going to be seeing our starport in the main. So 3cc INnoVation, just a nice clean build up for the moment. Nothing really too out of the ordinary. We've seen this day in and day out as of late, so not really too surprised about this just yet. Aliens at the right-hand side, going to burn down a Ling already, and the Banshee just on the way out. That's going to be seeing a couple of extra Queens coming through. Our Ling still producing, and the couple of drones continuing out as well. Bayoness setting up behind the natural. Just going to be seeing the few Hellenes and a Reaper around the left-hand side. And just going to be seeing the Reaper going to hop up into the main for a bit of a scout. The Hellions, well, the Hellions going to be deflected by Queens. So INnoVation going to lose the Reaper. Did he get to the back and see that Baneling nest is the question. He did not. He saw a good drone count on the natural, though, and that gives you the idea that this is probably looking to be a bit more macro-focused. He's going to go double Banshee anyway. He's going to wait for 2 Banshees back at home, so he will have these Banshees here if necessary to help him defend against this, to help him deal with any pressure that may come across the map from RagnaroK. If there was going to be roaches or so, when the second Banshee finishes, he probably flies across the map, but by then you kind of know there's no roaches on the way, and that you're safe enough to go across the map with the double Banshee to try and get damage done instead. Couple of Banshees moving through. Hellions picking off a Ling. So Banshee is going to cloak up, going to come through. Queen's running in underneath and just going to see our melee upgrades coming along. Just going to go in for a couple of these drones. So 2 drones getting picked off and just going to be seeing now another couple of drones being picked away at. So 4 or 5 workers going down. And just seeing our melee upgrades continuing through as well as our Spire of RagnaroK will drop down behind the 3rd base. And yeah, melee upgrades, Balin Nest, all this stuff coming up so far as our extra racks will be coming through. And yeah, these Banshees still having a pretty good time of this at the moment. 7 workers do go down as INnoVation escapes away down the left-hand side. Another little bit of creeps by pushing out, but this is a fantastic start. 7 drones to pick things off here with these couple of racks finishing from INnoVation. The Hellions go up the right, and they're going to be making their way across. So we just see the Ling coming through, having a little bit of a check to see what's going on. Marines do pick off the Zergling out on the front here as well. So INnoVation able to take that Ling down. The rest of the Hellions out over on the far right-hand side. Queens and an Overseer flying around up on the high ground. And yeah, I mean, obviously, RagnaroK not letting INnoVation through for any damage. We move into a Ling Bane Muta composition. And that's where we are moving for the moment. So getting in toward Ling Bane Muta. We do have our armory coming down. Engineering bays working away. As always, upgrades are going to be pretty even across the board as Inno. Going to be the first to bring some pressure out to this left side. So he's obviously, it's typical that the Terran player is the one to bring the pressure. And a nice little lift up. He's actually going to get a couple Widow Mine shots that will do okay. And those Widow Mines going to be left there for the moment as well. We'll need an Overseer to clean up. But maybe, you know, that means he can actually save these mines and get them to fire a second time around, which would be fantastic. Anytime a Widow Mine fires more than once, it's generally seen as a success story, right? Widow Mines typically go into fights knowing that they are likely to die as they fire or when they, you know, before they fire sometimes even. It's the threat of them that sometimes can be amazing. RagnaroK will get here and clean up, but I actually really do believe that INnoVation could have protected them a bit better. He absolutely could have unburrowed them and pulled them back. So, yeah, I mean, that was maybe a missed opportunity from Inno. But otherwise well handled from RagnaroK's point of view, right? He did the right things to make sure that they would not do any further damage for the fact that they were just left there. On the right side, Marines are there and pushing away the Mutalisks. A few more Widow Mines on the way out. Drilling Claws is producing, and with the 2-2 upgrades, INnoVation is getting set into a position here, which is going to be very focused on, you know, again, just Widow Mine, bio, very aggressive, very mobile army around the map. I'm assuming we're going to see a good amount of that. As a Marine step forward here, a few creep teamers already going down, and we'll actually be able to deny all of the active creep teamers, which is always very good news. Well, don't let this one get away. You've got a scan, you may as well make use of it. Keeping the creep away on this left side keeps this position open, this high ground that maybe allows Inno to attack into this space more easily. So that's why he's focused on clearing the creep on the right, on the left, sorry, on the right. So you have this attack coming through. The Banes go down, busting down the depots. INnoVation will be heavily supply blocked, but not much more than that. And I mean, that's kind of like a Baneling trade out for depots and not much else. So it's actually kind of okay for Inno, who's already maxed out as well. So being supply blocked is not the biggest of problems. He's missing 3 supply, right? So not the big deal, you know, not a huge deal. Yes, rebuilding the depots might cost a little bit, but then the Zerg player just gave up a bunch of Banelings, so it's also in that regard good for you. He didn't re-wall on that right side. That is what I am worried about for INnoVation, getting that wall back up. Otherwise, this is free access into a mineral line that just, you know, that just feels like something RagnaroK can use to his advantage. Those Widow Mines! How are they not dead yet? Oh my god, okay, they all died before they fight. I mean, they deserve to. They all ran in, clumped up together. That was meant to be a disaster for INnoVation, and it absolutely was. Now RagnaroK's going to try and jump on this army on the right side. INnoVation is moving from, you know, the left with other units, though, so he arrives in time to push RagnaroK away. As RagnaroK is rather comfortably holding 5 bases. As long as you're holding 5 bases, there's the Terrans on 4. You're kind of alright. I would like to see a ramp up in pressure. As you hit Hive, you're obviously moving into Ultras. It's also when the Terran player wants to take a 5th base, and that's when you want to make sure you don't let the Terran kind of get out of control of their economy. You know, hard to deny 4 bases on this map, but it's actually much easier to deny 5 bases because it is the 5th base just so much further out there compared to the 4 base setup. It's true for the Zerg as well, which is why it's very good so far that RagnaroK has been able to hold on to this 5th base top right. Obviously, he's still not able to move over to the left side. He's replacing the creep here now. And I was going to say, this base is the next one you should be trying to take. And I wouldn't mind him taking it just for the fact of, if the top right does go down, you've got somewhere else to send your drones to. That still won't happen just yet, though, as we're going to see Widow Mines connecting once again. And actually continue to do pretty well. We'll kill the Overseer. Connect on a few Lings and Banes. On the bottom side, Meters are going to try and deny the 5th base of the Terran. So now you know that INnoVation is taking this expansion. That's where RagnaroK has to step up a little bit and say, right, okay, you're expanding over here. That's fine. I just need to be ready to deal with that, as Marines and Marauders will fight over on this side once again. Medevac's going to load up the Marines and bring them up to the high ground. As our Ling Bane continues through, wanting to try and connect in towards the rest of the Marines now. Things still crashing through. The Mutas are continuing to chase, and you can see obviously the Medevacs trying to back away there as SCV's taking a bit more damage. 13 workers down, and we'll see a Queen going down. Widow Mines actually going to connect and cancel all of those morphing Banelings. That's huge. As INnoVation then runs into the Baneling that finishes up anyway in the other couple, but that was actually massive because it actually allowed him to stay there that little bit longer, or a little bit more safely. Man, but INnoVation's base is like, that's the issue. INnoVation has a base on the right, base bottom left. You're talking about the Terran player going to 6 bases while the Zerg can't get off 5. INnoVation's economy this game is going to be absolutely astounding. As our bio presses forwards, first Queens are already going down, and a couple of the Queens will die. Lings are going to run across, and that's going to be seeing the Widow Mine connecting in for the Queen once again on the far right. More bio of INnoVation pushing up the left side. Group tumors going down. And you're going to see the hatchery is going to get picked off. So the hatchery will go down. The Ling Bane will continue over. So yeah, Widow Mines coming through, and just going to see a couple of Widow Mines firing off. Banes, Lings continuing through, and now just going to lift off once again. Back away through the south side of this. INnoVation will come up through to the top. So Ling Bane continues to crash on through into this. Just going to be seeing a lot of Lings going down. But INnoVation, I mean, those are the trade-offs he's fine to take right now, because he's keeping a base advantage. If you're a base ahead, you can trade out with Ling Bane Muta all day. I mean, we're now on the way to Ultras as well, and that's where INnoVation might have to change his composition a little bit. Oftentimes against Ultras, if you do just kind of stick on the Bio Army, it can start to go a little bit wrong. Depends how many Ultras they get up. One Ultra on the way is maybe not going to make the difference, but yeah, up to like 5 or 6 in an army composition, and, you know, Liberators and Ghosts really do kind of pay for themselves at that point. So let's see our bio back over the left is going to go for a couple more creep tumors. Bio going to lift up once again. Just going to be seeing the Widow Mine firing. Ling Bane taking some shots, and just going to be seeing our Widow Mines continuing up to the top side. Bane's still trying to roll on through. Bio Force is fighting here as our Bane's going to roll into Marauders. That's not what you want, obviously. The Marines are the targets. Marines, oh, in the top side are going to be cornered. They cannot get away. I thought he was going to be ready to lift them up with the Medevacs, but they just weren't nearby. Oh my god, these Widow Mines are picking up damage, man. Every single time. This one just got 10 kills. And these armies of INnoVation just seem to be, you know, standing there and just fighting, right? They're just left there to deal so much damage in all of this. The Ling's going to wrap around this planetary fortress in some trouble. It's going to fall as now the rest of the bio moves down this right side. Lings and the Ultra continuing up as well, and I'm just going to lift into the Medevacs to back away from this. Holding us through the top side as Mutalists are chasing Medevacs through the south. You've obviously taken away this right side base, right? I mean, that's a positive for RagnaroK, but the INnoVation still really does strongly hold the bottom left, and so he is going to take his next base to the front. I guess the good news is RagnaroK kind of reversed the situation. Now he's the 6th base player versus the 5 base player, with the 6th base of INnoVation on the way up. That's where it needs to be. But the fact that INnoVation had such a good setup earlier, look at that bank, 3k, 2k, obviously on top of resources lost in your favor. That's why this game is going the way it is. INnoVation has really just stopped RagnaroK from establishing an insane economy. It just always feels like RagnaroK has been on the back foot, but maybe that can change now as these Bane's going to get a good connection in, and this base will once again not be allowed to finish, but he loses the top right. The bio play up here is good. He doesn't lose any drones there, while INnoVation is losing SCVs, but again, I don't necessarily think that matters too much. INnoVation has plenty of command centers, so you can A, mule a lot, and B, he can obviously just rebuild SCVs very quickly if he feels like he needs to. Right now, he doesn't maybe feel like he needs to. He's actually going to max out an even larger army. Maybe losing those SCVs just helps him. Right, he's got a bank to work with, so he doesn't need them. So now you sit on 140 army supply with a bank in play. That army supply is going to allow you to trade extremely well because you're 50 army supply ahead of the freaking Zerg player. So because RagnaroK still needs 90 drones, your army supply is now going to become a big problem for the Zerg. How do you fight 40 more army supply and trade well? Well, you don't trade well. That's the issue, and that's why you're meant to have the eco advantage. Again, this might seem ridiculous, it might seem unfair, but that's the kind of, the situation this game is played into because of how well INnoVation was set up earlier. This is all based on the earlier stage of the game. The Marauders look as though they might get to tank some Banelings here. The Marines will eventually start to go down. I still think INnoVation's fine with it because, again, rebuilding is okay when you've got money in the bank. He kills 9 drones as well. This hatchery goes down again. He's once again set to maybe retake this left-hand side. His right side base will have to lift and leave. There are just too many units here from RagnaroK, and he's backing away in a phase of the game where he's currently looking to rebuild. So in a few moments here, RagnaroK finding a fight that will give him some time to stay in this. Move back over the left in the hatchery there. Immediately in a little bit of trouble perhaps. There was just Lings there, which is why I was worried. Obviously, purely Lings is not exactly ideal as extra Banelings will continue to show up. So they continue to arrive. Just going through, a couple of SCVs going down. Bio up the left is coming in. Just going to be seeing the medevacs loading. The mutas are going to continue chasing. The medevac's just about getting out of there. Ooh, one medevac goes down. The second medevac still alive and will try to drop now. It goes down as well. Well, at the same time, RagnaroK makes a play out over on this side. Pushing through. The bio army getting there. The Bane's in some trouble. And we just see 21 SCVs are going to end up falling. We're going to see our Bane's continuing through. And yeah, a couple of Ultras will continue to give chase. Marauder, a couple of Marines coming forward with this. The Lings, the Ultras. Forcing INnoVation all the way back. INnoVation, this is where things get troubling when you don't have the units out right now to actually defend what's already on top of your bases. A little drop up here might force RagnaroK to pull away, but INnoVation losing 20, 30 SCVs. He'll get rid of this Ultra list. Does he have anything to get rid of the mutas? There's a Widowmine that's going to connect. That will soften them up. He does kill the top right base yet again. Resources lost is getting closer than it should be, right? I mean, usually it only gets further apart, but INnoVation really messed up a couple of these fights. RagnaroK's engagements have been absolutely spot on to keep him in this. And this game remains competitive. 74 SCVs, sorry, 74 drones to 30 SCVs. And you're in a position now where INnoVation, you do not have a lot of cash. Now, you still do have a couple orbitals up. You still do have mules to drop. But this is not a pretty situation compared to what you were. This game for me, like I've been telling the story of how INnoVation's going to win. And that's because that's how this game looked to me. For me, I was just convinced that that was where we were headed to based on what was happening earlier on. And I would go back and say it again because I don't think anything I said earlier was untrue. But RagnaroK has taken really good fights, like unbelievably good. It really doesn't make sense to me that he was able to trade so well against such a large army and find so much, but he really did a good job of jumping on it at the right time and then moving across the map to continue trading and getting SCVs to push Inno into this position now. But he absolutely is in some trouble. Now, this is still a large army of INnoVation, and a lot of Marauders in the front are going to be extremely tanky here. The Balins don't even want anything to do with it. Widowmine comes in from the left-hand side. It's going to connect, and oh my goodness, the Balins are blowing up. That Widowmine came in just as the Banes connected on Marauders too. There's a lot of explosions all at once. Planetary left side denied, but now INnoVation does have a right side base mining. It's an orbital though, which means if you lose this army on the right, Lings alone will stream through and deny that mining, and pretty much the last mining base of INnoVation that's healthy is realistically going to go down. So let's see, INnoVation more than ever right now needs to hold on this right hand side. He's got a few Marines stimming in to deal with the mutas, saving some units on the right side as well. Reinforcements are coming over, and the mutas are taking some hits. The mutas are starting to go down. A couple of units unloading from the medevacs. 32 Zerglings on the way up. I'm just going to see our Marines and our refineries continuing in as a couple of Widow mines will get crashed into. Banes will clean those out. The mutas still try and move their way forward as the medevacs load up, pulling back down the right side. 70 Marines in production. There goes that base. You lose this army, you lose this base. That's the consequence of having this as an orbital. INnoVation, he wasn't really looking to defend it though. He's instead going to go up here. He just cleaned out some drawers with some mines, and now he's going to get this hatchery. Okay, well, top right is still a hatch that's mining as well. Both players just have really very little economy towards the end of this here. This may just come down to the armies that we already see kind of on the map. Ragnar with 2.5k gas. Again, he doesn't even have anywhere to mine from with all of his drones. And this base is actually on its way to mining out, right? Like 5 minerals left, 90. So these patches are disappearing. As these patches disappear, this top right base is not going to provide RagnaroK necessarily the income he needs to overtake INnoVation. Because INnoVation is also mining off the bottom left, off very low mineral patch count. And now because he denied the left-hand side, that basically means you're mining the same amount. What's the income graph look like? Pretty much dead even. A little bit back and forth depending on who has drones or SCVs where at certain moments in time. INnoVation pretty much purely producing Marines. But I think Marines will get the job done. There's only one Ultra in play. I mean, 96 to 56 army supply again, right? It's once again the situation of INnoVation just having a little bit too much. You've got to defend this position as RagnaroK. This is your mining base, so you have to fight this. And you don't have a way to flank it because it's a very difficult position to flank. You got to go all the way around the bottom and around the right side. That doesn't work too well. Marauders are going to hold, and the Balins don't do anything. INnoVation will crash on through, and he should be able to take the base down now for sure. He gets it. He backs away for safety's sake. There's only a couple of Banes remaining. This turned into an extremely intense game, but I think INnoVation has done it now as he breaks that hatchery. In fact, we're going to even get the GG in this moment. RagnaroK just doesn't have an army left, and he very much so knows it. He knows there is nothing remaining for him to realistically clean up here. And INnoVation is going to take game number 1 of our best of 3 against RagnaroK, and looks to try and stay on top of this group and stay undefeated. As we have in the bottom left-hand side, the red Zerg player is RagnaroK from Alpha X. Down a game, but putting up a hell of a fight. Giving us some excellent ZVT as he tries to make as good a stand as possible to advance through from Group C. Top right, the blue Terran player is going to be INnoVation. So game number 2, and excited to see what the two players are going to bring out for us here. If this second game gives us half the excitement of the first game, it's still going to be pretty darn good. So excited to see what we get out of all of it. Hatch and a gas and a spawning pool to follow. No surprises on Pillars of Gold. Obviously, Pillars of Gold should play kind of differently to Death Aura. Specifically, just in that, in the first place, run-bys into this 3rd and 4th base are going to be more successful. So that should give RagnaroK a better time. 5th bases on this map are quite interesting too. Obviously, you do still have that idea of being able to go left or right, or take both, and then you kind of just go with the one that doesn't get denied. So you do have those... You kind of have those choices. As the SCV just continues down to the bottom left, is going to make its way across and moving in toward the natural, toward the main. As our hatchery here going to finish up. And the spawning pool will finish from RagnaroK as well. So SCV of INnoVation will go out through up to the upper right side. So SCV into the main base. Just going to be seeing our Overlord of RagnaroK is flying up toward the natural. The other Overlord through the center. The Reaper around the bottom side gets pushed away. Kind of low HP. Picked up a single kill just on a Zergling early in the game and a third CC. And it's coming through now as well. So 3 command centers once again from INnoVation, not shying away from the macro game. Obviously, he won the last one. Now, 5 drones are building, so RagnaroK obviously just droning for the moment. The real question mark for the next minute or so, just like, what exactly do you do off this from INnoVation? Tech Lab on the barracks, but do you put a starport on that? Do you go Banshees like you did last time around? Do you just go for a faster stim with like a Viking to clear out Overlords? Or do you go for a Liberator for a bit more harassment? You have all of these options at the moment. Looking at the gas count, Viking to start, looks like we'll probably just move into stim as well. As our Viking is in production, the Overlord of RagnaroK out in the center, and just going to be seeing a couple of other Overlords kind of out in the front lines, kind of holding off for the moment. So looking good as we see our stim is building from INnoVation. Our few Hellions, couple Hellions and a Reaper on the left-hand side. They are going to start to make their way down to the south, and the Reaper hops up into the main. It's going to get shot down pretty quickly by a Ling Queen army. So Reaper will go down there right from the start. Now these couple of Hellions pull back up the left-hand side with the Viking just picking away at the Ovi, so Ovi will drop down dead in the next couple of moments. There it goes. Roach Roaring building up from RagnaroK, so getting the Roach Roaring underway. Stim pack coming through on the racks. Our extra racks is building as well. A third racks to come through. I mean, honestly, just very passive setup from INnoVation. You know, we've seen a lot of builds as of late that can turn into a lot of aggression and can turn into very feisty games. As you see this Roach Roaring coming up from RagnaroK and the natural expansions, getting that ready to go. It's going to be seeing a couple of Queens hanging out and seeing our Hellions pushing through. Going to grab a Zergling already. So one Ling already going down. Just going to see the few Roaches producing from RagnaroK. A couple of barracks are building still from INnoVation, and a couple of engineering bays on the way through from INnoVation on the back of the natural. So getting that going. The Viking of Inno will come through to the left. Things will run in and just going to go towards the couple of mules. Hellions are there to push the Lings back out though. So the Lings get pushed back out over the far right hand side. Again, 1-1 upgrades coming in on the engineering base with the Lings and the Ravagers continue to produce. We do have our Hellions looking good to continue pushing the Lings away back up the right-hand side. Ravagers setting up, another Ravager about to finish. I mean, it's going to turn into this huge amount of aggression from RagnaroK from that earlier Roach Roaring. Here we go. Ballister kind of burst on through this. The Siege Tank on the high ground going to get ready to go. The Hellions on the low ground trying to pick away at a couple of these Roaches, and again, SCV is trying to hide away in the corner. Marines are here and doing very well, pushing these Ravagers back. The tank gets biled, though. I tell you what, though, these Hellions have been really MVPs. They've shut down so many of the reinforcing Lings that could have otherwise shown up and done so much more. I think these Hellions are going to stop these Ravagers from ever getting away as well. They're going to be able to block them from running out from the natural. And yeah, the Hellions are going to start going down, but the Marines will get every single Ravager. So INnoVation loses 26 SCVs. But losing 26 SCVs and killing everything and still having an army. That's the big thing, I think, right? It's not like he's coming out of this with nothing to play with. He comes out with this about to have 1-1 upgrades, combat shields, and stim, and Marines to show for it. so he can go across the map and put pressure on. And that's where, if anywhere, RagnaroK should be in the most trouble now, as he's ahead 10 workers, but his army really does not stand up well to what INnoVation currently holds. So, yes, success from RagnaroK, but let's make sure he can defend before we get carried away with what feels like a lead for him. It's just always worth having that kind of asterisk next to this position because, again, the upgrades are going to be a thing, not just for the first push either from INnoVation. They're going to be a thing for a long time. Evo Chamber's just finished. Upgrades just start. So we've got a minute and a half where INnoVation is on an upgrade lead. And RagnaroK is also still sticking on a Roach composition too. Now that is a little bit sturdier, and sometimes I would argue that the Roach composition might be a good way to actually hold off from a good amount of bio initially. It kind of keeps you alive well. So there is kind of a balancing act to play where there is a stage where the Roaches kind of just, there's not enough of them and they just kind of melt. And there's a stage where the Roaches do just get to that point where they kind of just overwhelm the bio force and it feels like the bio can't do anything. So it's a fine line between the two stages of that. And with a couple tanks here, that's worth keeping in mind as well, because the couple siege tanks, they are going to be very good at kind of putting damage out on those Roaches and making it easier for the upgrade advantage Marines just to cleave through and to finish those Roaches off in the near future after. INnoVation actually going to split this up a bit and keep some units low ground on the left and just fighting there while also pushing the right. And also, did we mention there's no fourth base from RagnaroK? This base attempt here obviously got denied pretty quickly. Here come the tanks, the Ravagers looking for the tanks, but honestly, there's a bunch of the Roaches going down already. Ravagers too, this is already an efficient trade up in the main base. Now you're going to stem into the third base as well, so INnoVation going to start trading out over here. He's got extra Marines here. That actually make the difference between him being able to clean up these Zerglings. I mean, the damage is way too much. The Lings just melt, and now it's a question of can the Roaches hold this off? A few units from the left-hand side, what remain, will make their way to the right. INnoVation might have to leave from this, but you can see how the tables have turned. He's now on a worker lead. He's still up the upgrades for a few more seconds. And these units aren't even being cleaned up. These units are still going. Roaches are just dropping down dead. This is the kind of point where these Roaches just don't kill the Marines. And so the Marines do very well. Reinforcements are showing up in a moment or so as well. And again, you're still struggling to deal with what's already here. Here are those reinforcements, including a siege tank. And if the tank siege is up, well, you know, then those Roaches are going to be in some serious trouble. I don't think it will, because he's afraid of it being targeted down and the fact he might have to give this position away. But yeah, oh, he loses the medevac that had the tank inside. I think the tank dropped back down but died because of it. Okay, well, the tank falls and there was a nice bile snipe, but INnoVation still comes out of this in the lead. Now 14 workers ahead. I mean, this is the power of just... I mean, again, this all comes down to... I know some people will look at this and be like, oh my god, Terran is disgusting. But this is a situation where RagnaroK commits so much to slowing the Terran down. And what did he even get out of it? Like, the income lead he took out of it wasn't even that significant compared to the income lead that INnoVation had before the attack. That's always the issue with these all-ins. If you don't do game-ending damage, the Terran has a way to get back into the game. And that's exactly what happened, right? He didn't end the game with this attack, and so here we are. Here we stand as Corrosive Battles take down a tank. The Roaches in a lot of trouble here. These Marines continue to fight. The SCVs will pull in to help. I'm just going to be seeing INnoVation coming through, picking off a couple extra Ravagers. Roaches continue to fall down dead. INnoVation 2-0. And RagnaroK is going to fall. His INnoVation will stay up at the top of the group for now then. 2-0 over RagnaroK in a pretty exciting series. Some fun back and forth stuff in the end. That was awesome. GG's.